Regarding the primary practices, sit together. So, all the members of a team should sit together and the software product should be developed in an open space that is big enough for the whole team. The idea is that you communicate using all your senses. So, if you need to, put a comfy chair in your cubicle, go to the conference room, and for 1 week work alone. Do create software engineering labs. And what happens if you don't have the whole team inside of the same geographical space? There are multi-site teams where people work in teams that come from the United States and China and India and Europe. So if you have these multi-site teams, what happens? Well, establish that you should have FaceTime. You should have a communication established where people actually meet one another so that the project can be conducted in a productive way. Distributed teams need to assess if everything is going well. And if that doesn't work, please consider introducing more traveling between sites so that the team can actually be in the same space as one another. Whole team. So you have cross-functional teams where you have people with distinct skills, distinct roles, different perspectives, different values. But the idea is to have them work together in the same goal. So the idea is to promote what is called the sense of team, the idea of belonging, of establishing and ensuring that we are all in this together, and the idea is that everyone supports each other work. What is the basic team size that usually works well with eXtreme programming? Well, usually you should have a team that should be between 12 and 150 people. Obviously, 12 people, okay, it's a reasonable number. 150 people usually mean that you have a huge software project in hand and you should reconfigure, because 150 people is a large amount of people, and for instance you can only remember the names of around 50 people. Okay, when you have more than 50 people, you usually have to take special concerns and special consideration when having a team of this size. Another important aspect to consider is that if you have a team that is not in full time dedicated to a project, you should make sure that the task switching between the projects where a team is working shouldn't be over the percentages of 40% and 60%. So teams should be 40% in one project and 60% in another project. And please do take this into consideration, because context switching is one of the hardest and most less performing tasks that our brain actually does. Try to have an informative workspace. This is a quite easy to conduct or no primary practice. So the workspace is or should be about the work that is being done. So someone should enter in the workspace and get the general idea of what is going on. Kent Beck actually promotes the idea of 50 seconds. And the idea is that you should have the stories, all the features that are being developed, all the work that is being conducted and is still in progress should be available on the wall, so that someone visually, when entering this space, could actually know what is the work about. Besides this, and this goes into the basic needs of people, water and snacks that provide comfort and encourage social interaction should always be available, as well as big visible charts that are important and active information that is useful being visible. There are a couple of charts available. We will see a couple of them. Okay, so this is an example from the first book of Kent Beck. So the idea is to have an open big space, as you can see, where all the teams are grouped in small groups. You also have individual places where you can go and work by yourself when you need some peace and quiet. But in each table and each desk that is available in the space, you get to see two chairs side by side and only one keyboard and one screen for the computer. So this is one way to show the pair programming. And here at the bottom, you can actually see one example of the information radiator that should be available. In here, it's possible to see all the stories that are done, the ones that are being conducted this week, the ones that are related to this release, the ones that haven't been thought of, so on a quarterly basis probably they will need to be estimated, and this is the work to be done in the future. Energized work. When people like what they do, they actually have a hard time knowing when to stop, and sometimes working only the hours that you can actually be productive might be a challenge for most of us, computer programmers and developers. And the idea of conducting the energized work is actually to be able to work on a sustainable basis. So, even if you take the caffeine and sugar that keep you going and keep you highly motivated, the idea is to avoid to overuse these products, so to avoid that they start or you go into a point where these items remove value from the project. Basically, it's something like this. When you're tired, you better stop, you better take a break. When you're sick, you should get better first. You don't want to mess with your team's work, so it's better to first take care of you so that you can actually produce good material to contribute to the team's goal. The idea is also to make incremental improvements. So one tip that is given from Kent Beck is to actually use this approach. For 2 hours, you stretch your code time, so you stay focused for 2 hours. You turn off your email notifications, you turn off everything and simply code for 2 hours. And after that 2 hours, go outside, take a break, do something completely different, and then when you feel that you are up to it, come back and then produce more meaningful work. Regarding pair programming, this is probably one of the most well-known practices of XP. The idea is to write all the lines of code with two people that actually sit at the same machine. So yes, they are actually always talking, always communicating, and actually always programming on the same page and at the same level. So when they do that, they are actually doing several tasks simultaneously, namely programming, analyzing, designing, and testing the software. So yes, it actually happens that you do a code review in local while your teammate, your pair, is programming. The idea is that the same keyboard and the same screen is shared between two people. Regarding pair programmers, the idea is that each member of the pair keeps the other one focused on the task. The idea is to actually brainstorm some refinements that need to be made to the system, and actually to clarify ideas as you go along, because there are a couple of doubts that are raising when you are actually conducting your work, and actually it helps to have someone to discuss your ideas and to help you clarify your ideas. The idea is that you actually take the initiative when your partner is stuck on some issue, on some problem, and everyone is accountable for what is being produced and ultimately is accountable for the team's practices. But can I work alone? Yes, you can. You can work alone. You just bring the design to the table of the team, discuss it with someone else, discuss it with your pair, and then go and code by yourself. Yes, you can actually do that because there is a part of the discussion that was made in a group, in a pair. The idea of having this practice is actually to introduce some benefit and to introduce an ultimate and the first respondent action for the code and to avoid some of the malpractices of programming. This can be both tiring but also satisfying. So the idea is just stay put, sit down, have a bottle of water, and enjoy your bottle of water while you're coding with your pair. Ultimately, as we have seen regarding the cycles of the team, on a weekly basis, the pairs should be rotated. So this will produce and will provide what is needed for the code ownership that makes all the sense when you're developing software. We will get back to that in a short while. Are there issues raised with this practice? There are a lot of issues raised with this practice. As a software developer, a person usually likes to work alone, doesn't like to work in a team, and as a programmer, you actually like your code and you like the way it goes. So taking the second opinion of someone that is by your side and introduce that vision into your code, it's sometimes difficult, especially at an initial stage.